Hello, welcome to Colonel O'Truth's Miniature Issues and the continuing work on Undercrag City. Throughout the last several episodes, I've been working on the caves and subterranean streets that lie inside the mountain. The last piece to go into these caves is a block of buildings with a jetty. This will complete Deep Street and Cavern Street, and the subterranean waterfront beside the bridge facing the underground temple. As with my other buildings, this block starts as black card. Details are quickly added using 2mm strips of balsa wood. I'm adding the horizontal pieces first. This building has a wide bay window on the upper floor. Like the buildings it faces across Deep Street, I decided it was important to have side-on details, as you can only actually look at these buildings down the length of the street. With the horizontals in place, I work on the main verticals before adding the rest of the details. You'll notice that there are thick timbers clustered together where one building meets the next. This is to give definition and show that the buildings are in fact separate structures. For the same reason, there are slight differences in the heights of the floors. I use matchsticks for the thicker timbers that give support to the overhanging upper floor. And now the smaller details go in. There's a balcony on the upper floor of one of the buildings. This will look out over the underground river. Again, this is about adding details that can be seen side on. Now to add a handrail. These are smaller pieces of matchstick that have been thinned down on the edges until they're the size I want. It's fiddly work. And now the doors. Simple pieces of balsa wood with planks drawn in with a pencil. I try to leave a gap at the bottom of each door. When the LED lighting's inside, I'd like the light to come out beneath the door. Checking how it fits. Now I'm piecing together the jetty. While you're watching me adding all these timbers one by one, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and perhaps give it a like and share with your friends. This channel continues to grow, but I'd really like to reach a much larger audience, so your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you. That's a pretty good fit. I'll leave it on a flat surface to dry so that it's rigid. With each stage, I check that the building's looking good in position. I've undercoated the building and removed the jetty. It was causing problems. I'll add it back in again later. When the undercoat is dry, I cover the entire model with brown ink. You might ask, why not paint the entire model just brown? Well, the ink over the grey over the black card gives different textures and tones straight away. As I continue with the painting and colouring, all of these different things will compound to give a really nice, finished, imperfect result. When the brown ink is dry, the whole model is heavily dry brushed with pale yellow. I'm concentrating on the panels between the timbers here, but as you can see, it's not a perfect finish. It's not all the way into the corners. It's rough. The same with the jetty. I'm working quickly, and I'm not thinking too much about this. When the yellow's dry, I add white. Again, I want to get plenty into the panels, and it's nice to get some highlights on the timbers. It's an imperfect and patchy finish. I've decided now's the time to glue the jetty back into place. And now brown ink on all of the wood. This ink is semi-translucent, it's going to show the tones through from underneath. Comes together quite quickly. Here I'm cleaning up a mistake. I don't want too much brown in that panel. I think you'll agree it's starting to look quite solid. I go through the whole model and check that the edges of all of the timbers have been touched up as well, not just the faces. Now for some door hardware. Tiny pieces of thin black card. These two doors clearly open in opposite directions, both towards the central wall between the two buildings. A little bit of silver paint over the black. It's okay that this is a little rough too. I don't want it to look perfect and shiny. Very delicately going over the silver with rust ink. And now that all the colouring is done, I can put the window glass in. This is a sheet of acetate that I painted on both sides with Mod Podge. It creates a nice, imperfect, slightly frosted glass. It'll help to catch the light from the LEDs. I do this for all of the windows. For some of the windows I want leaded glass, so I'm drawing a grid. Done the horizontals with a ruler, but I'm doing the verticals by hand. This will give the nice wonky effect that's quite common with old leaded windows. Cut sections of this and put it in behind the windows of the buildings. I've decided that the inked side should face out. Try and get it as straight as I can. Now for LEDs. Wherever I have windows, I want light. And I need to think about the roof of the caves. I've cobbled together some chunks of foam to fit with the shape of what's been built so far. I can trace around the top edge to give myself a fairly good guideline of where the bottom edge should meet. This is why in earlier episodes I mentioned everything was coming to a tapered edge. I'll check it several times while I'm working on this. When I'm happy with the shape, I start adding clay with PVA. These subterranean streets meet up with the roof of the cave. Just putting the clay on in blobs, with plenty of PVA. You can see the wiring for the LEDs comes out from the bottom of the model. I already have a main wire built into the model for this to connect to. With the clay in place, I start to shape it using a brush and more PVA glue. PVA makes it malleable and stops it cracking. I want it to look rocky, not blobby. And then a dark grey base coat. Plenty of light grey highlighting. Then white. And now a thin black wash. 1 part black ink to 16 parts water. While the wash is still wet, I'm adding green ink above the light sources in the windows. Mosses will grow wherever they can. I add yellow over the green to get a vibrant wash all around the building. Now some minerals inside the walls. This is a combination of pink and pearlescent ink to give something resembling a metallic sheen. And now some light blue with pearlescent ink. This is fantasy. I want these caves to be bright. And now, it's time to fit it into the rest of the model. I've given the river another coat of Mod Podge. This will help the feet of the jetty to settle in and look like they're sitting in water. Tucking the wires into the channel I've left, pressing everything into place. Now I can join the wires. Flip of a switch, and my lighting's working. There are gaps in the cave roof. I'm going to close these off with paper that I've painted with blacks and greys. I thought at first I could do this in a single piece, but then I realised torn pieces of paper would be a much better approach, and covering all of the gaps. I've left a small hole there. I might use it later for something. Everything's painted into place with PVA. This will allow it to set nice and firm. So that completes the Great Cavern, Deep Street, Cavern Street, the Temple Door, the Underground River, stalactites, stalagmites, and a stairway to the outside world. I'll be moving on shortly to other parts of Undercrag City. But until then, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.